So, look, we need to have a conversation. On October the 28th, Amazon announced that they were cutting 14,000 corporate jobs, not warehouse jobs, not factory floor jobs, but corporate professionals, middle management, analysts, and coordinators. And the CEO didn't dance around it. He said explicitly that we will need fewer people doing some of the jobs they're doing today because of AI. But Amazon is not alone. Google cut 12,000 employees. Then they later cut 1,000 of their recruiters. Meta. Meta eliminated 21,000 jobs over the course of 2023 and 2024. Microsoft. Microsoft has cut 10,000 people. I know of one personally who has worked for Microsoft for over 20 years. Job, poof, gone. And IBM has paused or eliminated 7,800 jobs. And their CEO also saying that 30% of their back office roles were going to be eliminated due to AI. But this is the thing, you may be thinking, okay, well, these all, mostly tech companies. That doesn't have anything to do with me. Well, guess what? It's not just tech anymore. Duolingo, the app that teaches you how to teach a foreign language, they eliminated 10% of their contractors' jobs with AI translation. UPS, they've eliminated 12,000 management jobs because they are able to use AI now to manage their logistics. And then even Salesforce and SAP, these are companies that sell software to other companies. Even they have eliminated thousands of their employees because AI is able to do it better. So, news alert. AI didn't come for factory workers first. It came for corporate America, and most people missed it. So that's what I want to talk about with you today, not to, be doom and gloom and doom, or to ring the alarm, but just so that you can be aware and prepared. Because as you'll always hear me say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So my name is Latanya. They call me LT, and welcome to the Exit to Excel podcast. If this is your first time, then welcome. This is the podcast where we take career setbacks and stagnation and turn them into layoffs and opportunities. I've been in HR for over 25 years. I have laid off thousands of people. I've also helped people navigate office politics. I've worked with leaders on their succession plans and identifying high potential talent. I've also helped them identify people who would be exited from the organization due to layoffs. On the flip side, I've also been impacted by a layoff 4 times, most recently last year. So I know exactly how it is when you've been told that your services are no longer needed, or you see things are happening around you and you are just frozen in fear, not really knowing what to do. We talk about how to get through all of that here. So if this is your first time, then welcome. While you're at it, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss an episode. We are coming to you 2 and 3 days a week, also dropping, information all throughout the week as well. So make sure you subscribe, like, and follow and forward. And also follow me on my social media. That's Exit to Excel on my Instagram and TikTok, and we're now on LinkedIn. Speaking of LinkedIn, we just launched our LinkedIn campaign last week, and I've had so many people reach out with support or just to say hello, especially some of my former coworkers. It is so great to hear from you guys. I'll say despite all the, layoffs I've endured, I have really had some great experiences, and I have really worked with some outstanding people. And so it's really good to know that, we were able to do some great things where we were working together and, they haven't forgotten. So thank you for your support. But let's get on to today's discussion about these announcements because I want to make you aware of what is going on and how you will probably be impacted. Okay. Because the announcement from Amazon about the layoff of the 14,000 people, this is different from other layoff announcements that you've seen because it isn't about budget cuts. It isn't even about market conditions. It isn't about companies trying to save money or restructure. This is corporate America saying out loud what every HR person or career strategist is recognizing. It's recognizing that AI is replacing knowledge workers and is happening at a much faster clip than we ever expected. Because this is the truth and what they're not being so transparent about, and is what I'm going to break down to you over the next 20 minutes or so. AI isn't replacing strategic thinkers, but it is replacing people who refuse to think strategically about AI. Now, look, I talk to people all the time. People know me. I've been doing this AI thing for some time and I absolutely love it. But I do understand people's concerns. I do understand people's concerns about bad characters using AI in a bad way. I understand the concern about AI replacing jobs. I get that. But you really can't afford to be anti AI. Being anti AI is almost like being anti internet. You can't get around it. So, my purpose in all these discussions is to make you aware and to give you some tools to get you comfortable with AI, to learn it and use it in a way that will make you invaluable in your organization. Or if you've already been transitioned out of an organization or a role, you're now able to leverage AI to land your next role and to also be more productive and more valuable and operate on a higher level in your new role using AI. So that's all the purpose of these discussions. So, after being in HR for 25 years, I mean, like I said, I've laid off thousands of people over the course of my career. And I've seen all kinds of layoffs. I've seen recession layoffs, I've seen pandemic layoffs, and I've seen restructuring layoffs. But these layoffs that are occurring now is very, very different because for the first time, it really isn't about we got to save money, we got to cut cost, or we can't afford you. It is about we have built something that can do your job better than you can. Okay. So, this is what I want to cover with you today. I want to cover, what's really happening across industries right now. I want to cover why corporate jobs are more vulnerable than you think, the four types of workers there are, and the three that are getting cut, and what this means for your career, regardless of your industry. And I want to outline for you a 48-hour action plan that you can start to protect yourself. Okay. So those are things I want to cover with you today. But let's recap on what's going on out here in these streets. These are the facts of what's going on, right? We talked about, the Amazons and the Metas and the Microsofts. Okay. So these tech giants are laying off thousands and thousands of people because of AI. So I talked about Amazon. They announced the layoff of 14,000 jobs, but reports are that the numbers can get as high as 30,000 people. And guess which divisions are being hit the hardest? AWS, their cloud computing arm, Prime Video, HR departments, communications. These are the exact roles that people thought were going to be safe because they required human judgment and creativity. Well, guess what? We were wrong about that as well. Take a look at Google Alphabet. They cut 12,000 roles as well. Then they went back and cut 1,000 recruiters. Now, this is one of the companies that gets the most number of job applicants than any other company there is. And they have cut 1,000 recruiters because now AI is able to handle recruiting better than the recruiters that were on their staff. Meta, Meta, like I said, has cut 21,000 roles, and Zuckerberg has said himself that this was the year of efficiency and that AI powered productivity was the reason why they needed fewer people. Um, Salesforce, I mentioned 8,000 employees with heavy cuts in customer success roles because now they're able to automate a lot of the things that these roles did with different AI tools. Now, those are just the tech companies, but don't get it twisted because non tech companies are going to also start following suit. So I already mentioned Duolingo. I mentioned UPS, but you also have media companies like Bloomberg and Reuters and AP. Now, what's happening there is that all of them use AI for basic reporting. And these are roles that were their feeder roles that they would hire new college graduates in to start their career. Well, guess what? All of those roles that were initially used to hire in early career talent are now being eliminated because of AI. Now, I had a conversation with, I'm a leadership coach for a college accelerator program, and I've really been challenging my fellows to go back and rethink about the degrees they're pursuing and the fields they want to pursue because unfortunately and fortunately, AI has completely changed the market. And there's a large possibility that you could spend all this time and all this money on a degree and pursue a job to only have that job obsolete within the next 12 to 24 months. I'm just being honest. So that's the conversation that I'm having with a lot of the fellows in my cohort and the people that I'm mentoring. But it is these entry level jobs that are now being replaced by AI at a very fast clip. Now, according to Challenger Gray and Christmas, this is a firm that tracks all the layoff announcements. Get this now, 945,000 jobs have been cut in 2024. That is the highest number that we've seen since the pandemic. Since the pandemic. Now, get this, 17,000 of those jobs were explicitly attributed to artificial intelligence. 20,000 of those job cuts were attributed to automation. And there were many more job cuts for which efficiency or restructuring was cited as the reason, when really it was just AI in disguise and companies just didn't want to say it. But here's the detail that everyone is missing. None of these were done overnight. None of these decisions were done overnight. Amazon even announced 5 months prior in an internal email to their employees that the company was going to need fewer people doing jobs because of AI. And guess what? 5 months later, get the announcement, boom, 14,000 jobs gone. So, in other words, these aren't happening overnight. They are planning these actions months and months ahead, testing, measuring, calculating. Now, let's talk about what's changed over the past 18 months. When you think about it, it's really kind of interesting. Did you know ChatGPT rolled out in November of 2022? So we're coming up on 3 years that ChatGPT has been has been among us. So companies have had what going on 3 years that they've had an opportunity to experiment with generative AI. Now, 2024 was a testing phase. They're testing it out. They're piloting different AI tools and they're able to measure the productivity gains and calculate their ROI. 2025, implementation phase. Now they have proof that AI works, they have the data. And so now here comes the cost cuts and the restructuring. So, what is going to happen in 2026 and 2027? Well, guess what? It's going to be the new normal. Now, AI first operations is going to be the standard. And companies that are not on board at this point are absolutely going to fall behind. That's just the fact. So, what we're watching right now, guys, is the biggest workforce transformation we have seen since computers were introduced to the offices in the 1980s. The biggest workforce transformation we've seen since computers were introduced and brought into the offices, into work offices in the 1980s. Except this is happening 10 times faster. So, look, what Amazon did, Amazon didn't just announce layoffs, they announced the future. And every company is watching and planning their own version. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Fortune magazine announced something that should make every corporate person stand to attention. These companies didn't cut factory jobs. They aren't cutting factory jobs. They're cutting middle management. And the assumption has always been that AI was going to cut manual jobs, manual labor first, and then move up the food chain. But we got it wrong. Turns out they are going after the office workers now and not the blue collar jobs. And quite frankly, no one is ready. No one is ready. So let's talk about what is it that AI can do well, because in that way you'll know if you're doing some of these things, then you need to start getting some things in order. So the things that AI does really well is research and information gathering, analysis and data processing, summarization and synthesis, coordination and scheduling, reporting and documentation, writing first drafts, basic decision making with clear parameters. What do all of those things have in common? They're exactly what junior and mid-level corporate professionals do all day. So, excuse me, my coworker is my co-podcast host is getting restless, so excuse us. But look, what can't AI do? AI can't swing a hammer. AI can't yet stock a shelf, and it can't yet very well drive a forklift. But what it can do is summarize your meeting, send out a recap to everyone. It can analyze your sales data. It can draft your project proposal, and it can coordinate your team's calendar. That is what AI can do. So Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft, they looked at their corporate workforce and they asked, okay, how many of these roles are doing tasks that AI can handle? What was the answer? Tens of thousands. Now, before you panic, which I know some people will, some people are, here's something I want you to understand. After being in HR for 25 years and being very, very familiar with these tools and how they're being used, I can tell you exactly which roles are vulnerable and, you know, which ones are more at risk than others. And it's probably not the ones that you think. So let's go over that now. So there are four types of workers, and only one out of the four is thriving and has, tremendous opportunity. Type one are your task doers. These are people whose job descriptions are basically a list of tasks. They compile weekly reports, they schedule meetings, they update spreadsheets, they send reminders. So if your job can be described as I do X, Y, and Z, then these are tasks that are repetitive and rules-based. And quite frankly, unfortunately, you're in the danger zone. And it's not because you aren't good at your job, but it is because AI can do those same tasks a lot faster, a lot cheaper. And guess what? They don't call out sick and they don't take PTO. I'm just saying. So here are some real examples of tasks that are being replaced by AI, just to give you a sense. Creating social media content and scheduling posts. That's something that Jasper AI can do. Compiling data from multiple sources into reports. That's something that ChatGPT and Claude can do. Coordinating project timelines and sending updates. Those are things that Notion AI and Asana Intelligence can do. Drafting routine correspondence and documents. That's basically every AI writing tool is able to do. So again, if your role consists of just a list of tasks, then you need to take action sooner than later. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the type 2 worker or employee. These are your information middle people. These are your coordinators, your project managers who mostly move information from one person to another. The analysts who compile data, but yet they're not interpreting it strategically. So if your primary value is gathering information from here and delivering it there, that is an AI workflow. And that's what tools like ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot were literally designed to do. So again, some real examples of how these types of roles are being eliminated are junior project managers who track projects or tasks, but they don't navigate politics. Data analysts who are pulling reports, but now they're not providing any strategic insights. HR coordinators who are moving candidates through pipelines and a process, but they're not assessing talent. And communication specialists who are distributing information, but they're not shaping the messaging. Those are examples of people in roles that can easily be replaced. Let's talk about type 3. Type 3 are your good enough performers. Now, these are I like to call them your steady eddies. They ain't really hitting on a whole bunch, but they ain't really causing damage. They ain't really hurting nobody. But the thing is, in this day and time, if you're just a mediocre mid-level performer that's competent but not exceptional, you're competing against AI that is also competent, but a lot more cheaper than you are, 1/10 the cost of you. So before, companies used to hold on to mediocre talent because it was too costly to replace, it was too timely to replace, or it was too risky because of other factors. But now that's no longer the case, because instead of being replaced by a person, you're being replaced by AI. And replacements by AI is neither expensive, timely, or risky. So if you are performing and just meeting expectations, you are probably the easiest cut to justify. Okay. Now, what everyone should understand is that none of these types of workers I talked about, none of it means that you are obsolete. But what it does mean is that the game has changed. And so you have got to change your strategy, because if you don't, you're absolutely going to find yourself on the other end of thank you, but your services are no longer needed. So that brings me to the fourth type of worker that is actually surviving in this type of movement, and not just surviving. So this type of worker is your AI enhanced strategic thinker. These are the people who use AI as a tool and not as a threat. They're using it to automate the routine stuff so that they can focus on more strategic types of things, creativity, relationship building, and decision making. They're not competing with AI. They're not concerned about AI. They're not afraid about AI. They're competing with AI in their toolkit versus the people who are refusing to learn AI, period. So let me give you an example. I have a friend client named Amy, and she's been working in marketing. We went to grad school together. But I remember probably about 4 years ago, she was spending a lot of her time on task, right? Writing copy, writing social media posts, compiling analytic reports, scheduling content, updating spreadsheets. But when ChatGPT rolled out, she then started using it to draft her content. So she was able to do it in less than half the time that she was doing it before. She was using Claude to analyze her campaign data and spot trends. and she was using AI to start automating her scheduling and reporting. So it freed up a lot of her time. And so what she started doing with her free time was strategic campaign planning, spending that more time with their clients to get to know their needs and giving them that strategic counsel, relationship building with key stakeholders, presenting her insights to leadership, and navigating the organizational politics so that she could get buy-in for her ideas. So it got to the point she was telling me that during her mid-year review, her boss had pointed out how she noticed how she was operating at a higher level and how she was operating on a more strategic level. So Amy was very glad to see that she had noticed. And her manager had also said, hey, you're now able to do the work of 2 or 3 people. You have the same output as 2 or 3 people on the team. So months later down the road, when there were layoffs in her department, guess what? Amy was one of the few people who was not impacted. She wasn't even on the list. And as a matter of fact, even a few months after that, they ended up promoting her. So it wasn't because, she's irreplaceable, but it is because she became 10 times more valuable in that organization using AI than her colleagues were who weren't using AI. So this is the thing I want you to know. Companies don't want to pay for tasks that AI can do, but they will absolutely pay for people who can leverage AI to deliver 3 times the value. So, how do you become an Amy instead of one of the 14,000 that are let go? So, right now I'm going to outline for you basically your runway, your timeline for which you need to take action, and some things that you can do in the next 48 hours to start to position yourself to become an Amy. So, if you are in tech, okay, and again, I'm using tech as an example because tech is at the epicenter of this movement. If you're in tech, particularly one of the larger companies, your company is either planning layoffs or they're watching their competitors do it and thinking, okay, we should probably do the same thing. So the timeline for tech workers, if you're in the tech industry, now is the time to take action because we already see major tech companies leading the charge, leveraging AI. In the next 6 months, mid-sized tech companies are going to start following suit. And in the next 12 months, we're going to start seeing startups adopting AI first hiring strategies, meaning that when they start up, they're going to be starting with fewer people and more AI tools. Now, if you are not in the tech industry, don't get comfortable because a lot of companies tend to follow Amazon, right? They tend to, kind of set the stage for a lot of things. And so we see Amazon started with corporate roles, Google started with recruiters. And so these companies have become testing grounds for what is possible in the industry. So let me give you an example of how I saw this work like in real time, in reality, in another company I worked for. I worked for a company, and as with a lot of companies, you used to have a lot of administrative staff, right? So a lot of your senior leaders had their own personal admin. They're responsible for scheduling meetings, coordinated travel, travel and expense reports, so on and so forth. There was one particular leader we had brought into the organization who brought his admin with him who had moved to Jamaica and who was supporting him from Jamaica. Well, the CEO of the company got word of this and wanted to have a conversation with him and say, well, wait a minute, how is this working? Like your admin is in Jamaica, like she's not in the office with you. And he said, no, she doesn't have to be. And he talked about how she was able to manage him remotely from Jamaica, which was a lot cheaper, of course, and was a lot more efficient and everything. Didn't lose any ground just because she was in Jamaica. Well, guess what? I couldn't believe it. About 9 to 10 months later, They laid off probably 85% of the administrative staff in the company in the US. And they had hired a group of administrative support in Jamaica to now provide administrative support to the US based leaders. And he got the idea from talking to someone, vetted it out, tested it out with a smaller group, and then decided, hey, this is something that we can do to save probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they did. And then other companies started following suit. That's how these things work. It only takes one to be the testing ground, to be successful, and then others are going to follow suit. So, getting back to this and the non-tech companies, right now they're watching the tech companies and seeing how they're able to execute on this. And in 6 to 12 months, we're going to start seeing finance companies, healthcare companies, retail companies follow suit. In 12 to 24 months, we're going to see these mid-sized non-tech companies adopting AI-first strategies. And then in another 24 to 36 months, we're going to start seeing these startups in these other industries start leveraging AI tools to be more competitive with less people. Watch what I tell you, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of what industry you're in, you have to be prepared because this isn't coming, it's already here. So real quickly, I just want to go, if you're in these roles, you're the most vulnerable. If you're in administrative and coordination roles, executive assistants, project coordinators, office managers, any entry-level professional roles, junior analysts, content creators, customer service reps. I already saw that in my last company for the call centers. They were already leveraging a lot of AI tools to take some of the initial calls and that kind of thing. And then entry-level recruiters that are doing your screening and scheduling interviews. All of those are being automated. Middle management that's more task focused. Managers who primarily track work and not develop their people. Coordinators who are just moving information versus synthesizing insights. And supervisors who just freaking supervise versus leading and mentoring their employees. Now, don't get me started on that because I love me some frontline supervisors. Frontline leaders, let me say that, because at the end of the day, if you are simply supervising and you're not leading, then you're at risk. But that's another podcast for another day. Now, if you are in these roles, you have a little bit more time, but you still need to adapt. These are your strategic leaders. These are leaders who are navigating complexity and ambiguity, executives who are making high-stake decisions and with incomplete information, managers who are developing their talent and building culture. If you're in a relationship-intensive role, maybe you're a sales professional and you're building or have built long-term relationships with your clients, customer success managers handling complex high-value accounts, account executives managing strategic partnerships. Then you have your creative and innovative roles generating true creativity and original thinking, not just content generation, innovation R&D positions. Then you have those with specialized expertise. Hey, you have a little bit of runway, but you're not completely safe. These are people who have expertise that AI can't replicate yet. These are roles that require professional judgment accountability, roles like your doctors and lawyers and engineers. Crisis management and high stakes negotiation. Again, these roles are safe for now, but they're still going to require some level of adaptation. So I told you I was going to give you something that you could take action on right now, and I strongly encourage you to do this. There's 3 questions I want you to answer this week. First question is, can AI do 50% of my tasks? And I need you to be brutally honest, because if you're not, you're not hurting anyone but yourself. And if you need to do this exercise with someone to serve as your voice of reason, then I encourage you to do that. But be honest. If you answer yes, then you're vulnerable, and you're not vulnerable down the road in 5 years. You're vulnerable right now. Okay. Question number 2, am I learning AI tools or am I avoiding them? If you are avoiding AI, hoping it goes away, or thinking that, hey, I'm too old to learn this, or I don't need this because I'm so experienced, I'm so established, then you are absolutely making yourself obsolete. Okay. Question number 3. Do I position myself by tasks or outcomes? If your resume, if your LinkedIn is listing what you do rather than the value you create, then you are positioning yourself as being AI replaceable. So take a look at your LinkedIn. I've given you some examples here on what your LinkedIn headline may say and what it needs to say, and how you position yourself as being, irreplaceable. So, for example, you are a marketing manager at XYZ Corp, AI replaceable. Instead, say, hey, you're a revenue growth strategist, scale marketing ROI 300% using AI enhanced campaigns. That is showing you or demonstrating or telling the value you created. So you see the difference there? So one describes tasks that AI can do. The other is describing outcomes and human judgment that AI cannot. So again, if 50% of your job is tasks AI can do, you don't have 5 years to adapt. You have maybe 5 months. So here is something you can do in the next 48 hours to start positioning yourself. One is audit your job for AI vulnerability. Take out a piece of paper, list everything you do over the course of a week. Then mark each task as A, requires human judgment, creativity, or relationships. B, could be partially automated with AI help. C, could be fully automated with AI. So be honest. Don't lie to yourself again, because you really need to be able to discern truly what requires judgment and what is really just following a process. If 50% of your answers or task are B or C, you do need to act immediately. For hour two and three, learn one AI tool that is relevant to your field. Not someday, not when you have time, but like, hey, right now, right after you get off this podcast. So I've listed here some things, some tools that you can use depending on the role you're in. So for example, in marketing, you can try ChatGPT or Jasper. Project management, Notion AI or ClickUp. Data analysis, Claude or GitHub Copilot, and so on and so forth. But spend some time, carve out some time to learn some of these tools that can make a huge difference in your role and your productivity. Hour 4, update your positioning. That means looking at your LinkedIn, looking at your headline and summary, and if it is more task based, then you want to revise it into being more value based. Okay. And I'm giving you some examples there. The last thing, request my free AI vulnerability assessment. If you want to do a deeper dive and a deeper analysis in terms of your role and coming up with a roadmap on how you can become, more indispensable, then comment below vulnerability, and I'll put you on a waiting list and send it to you as soon as it's available. I'm expecting it's going to be available this Friday or Saturday, but comment below here, or you can comment on my social media or send a request to info@exit2excel.com. This is a 10-minute assessment that will tell you which of your specific tasks are most at risk, which AI tools you should learn for your specific role in industry, how to reposition yourself as AI enhanced and not AI replaceable, and also give you a 30-day action plan. It's completely free. All it takes is 10 minutes, but it can absolutely save your career. So look, after being in 25 years, I can tell you, the people who are able to survive these massive market shifts aren't necessarily the ones who panic, but they are the ones who tend to adapt faster than everyone else. And right now, there are so many people afraid of AI, skeptical of AI, and they're just under the covers hoping it's going to go away. And they're thinking, hey, my company, I don't have anything to worry about. My company, they're slow to adapt new technology, this and that, or whatever. And or you're thinking, oh, my role is safe because AI is not able to do my job. And I'm just going to tell you, unfortunately, a lot of us, hey, included, we're legend in our own minds. And we tend to place more value on the things that we do than the organization does. So that's why you have to be very honest with yourself, because at the end of the day, you probably have 12,000, 14,000 people at Amazon, 12,000 people at Google, and 21,000 people at Meta who thought the same thing. But that fear and that denial, that can be our competitive advantage. Because while people are scared, we're going to be learning. While they are resisting, we're going to be adapting. And while they are hoping, we are going to be positioning ourselves as indispensable. So 6 months from now, when the company starts looking at which roles can be eliminated due to AI optimization and looking at people on the team who can actually help the organization move forward in adopting AI and using it to perform on a higher level, then you're going to be on the kept list versus the let go list. That's what we're aiming for here. So I've given you your to-dos, get at it. When I come back, I'm actually going to go more into detail on how to protect yourself and be AI enhanced instead of AI replaced. So you don't want to miss it. In the meantime, stay strong, stay positive. Look, we're going to learn to surf the wave rather than being drowned by it. And we're going to continue to exit to excel. So I'll see you the next time.